Hey there, kids. It's me, Oni the Unicorn. And I'm here to tell you that f***ing your dreams ain't cheap. In fact, it costs a ton of cash to do. So that's why me and the Ohno radio show need your help. Just go to the website displayed below and hit us up with some cash, yo. $1, $5, $1 million if you have it to spare. Any amount is appreciated. Well, I gotta go because these dreams ain't gonna fuck themselves. See ya!
Welcome back to yet another edition of the Ohno Wrestling Podcast. That's right. It's me and my good friend. Well, okay, yeah, it's me, your not so champion-y champion. I'm not champion. I've been championing forever. But yeah, it's me, the Sharp Break Kiddo, and along with me, right tonight is the champion of our predictions contests, the one and only, gosh, it's the modern day Maharaja with another just incredible victory, taking over once again. The belt is still on tour around the country, and apparently it went to even Chicago this week. But we'll get into that. It definitely went to Vegas. Maybe it didn't go to Chicago, but it definitely went to Vegas. And no Duncan this evening, so just the two of us right now. Maybe he'll join us later, maybe he won't. Seems like there's been some trouble in paradise, as Kofi Kingston would like to say. But nah, it's just me and you. And you know what? Sometimes you need a good two-person show between a real champion and Matthew.
Oh, yeah. You're the Baron Corbin in this situation.
I think I really am. I'm definitely Corbining it up. Corbining should be actually a new adjective.
It totally should be.
Yeah, or verb, I guess, right? What are you doing?
He's also coming up now because, though, did you see he won some money in Vegas?
Oh, he's doing great now. He's turning everything around. His life. I think he got a new shirt. He got a new shirt. He was rolling in the presidential suite. So, yeah, I mean, just good on Corbin. He's really turning everything around. All kidding aside, it has been one of just like, there's going to be so much that we need to talk about. And so if we're all over the place, please forgive us, fans. Thank you for all of us joining us in the chat room. But at the end of the day, yeah, there's just so much that we need to get to. We're probably going to be a little bit all over the place tonight. And that's just fine, because that's the way we like it over here at Ohno Wrestling. But Matthew, my good brother, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Doing well, good brother. Dude, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Started a new job, like with training, working from home. First time I've ever been doing that before, so that's been a little bit interesting, you know. It's
a little weird at first, isn't it?
It definitely is, but we'll see how it goes. I've got, another like sort of week and a half of training before they really throw me to the wolves, but and as you can hear, the thunder and lightning strike with our typical Florida evening thunderstorms. But the thunder and lightning did strike in a big way, I would say, over the United Center one last Friday evening with something that I think we all knew was happening, but didn't quite believe it until we saw it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I mean, the writing was on the wall. I mean,
right.
It was the best kept secret in wrestling.
The worst kept secret in wrestling, rather.
While everybody knew about it, and I think it would have been crazy we had talked about it on the previous podcast that if they hadn't, the fans would have rioted, you know. And on top of that, I mean, I think if the fans hadn't, we had talked last week, like, do they wait till the end of the show and do it? Like, they couldn't. The way that they did it, the fans wouldn't have waited. They wouldn't have liked anything else about the show. You know, it would have been with bated breath. And I also think that you gave him the amount of time as opposed to like having to like crunch it in at the end and being like, okay, you have 10 minutes hard, right? Where they could give him a little leeway at the front. So it made a lot of sense. But
it also would have probably done a disservice to the rest of the Rampage show, because you would have had these wrestlers that didn't want to overstep their bounds, right? And they would probably have been rushing matches. There would have been non-stop Punk chants throughout the evening. By doing the opening promo, and I'm glad that they gave him the amount of time on the microphone that they did. It needed to happen in exactly the way it happened. And when you even have a guy like Jim Cornette saying it was the perfect debut on AEW television and he couldn't have booked this or written this any better, that right there is a testament to how well Tony Khan, CM Punk, and all of AEW did with this particular debut. AEW has been notorious for kind of botching some of their debuts. This is far from one of them.
Far from one of them. And I was surprised because, I mean, I've watched it quite a few times. I'm sure you've watched it more than once. We've, you know.
I think I'm on 4. I think I'm in 4. Number 4.
Okay. I mean, and for someone who's not a big Punk fan, he was just never my guy. It was also kind of like in like the dark period kind of for me. And so it never, and when I've gone back, it just never clicked, never, you know, that sort of thing. Like just never been like, I fucking hate the guy, talk shit. It's just he's never been my guy. Never liked him, never really fought, you know, other than like the high moments and just the overall high level of like what happened during his career. I knew that and his importance, obviously, but beyond that was not like a huge mark. But still, I can't deny the pop that I had and the feels as a pro wrestling fan.
That was what it was for me. It was less about being a Punk fan and being a fan of pro wrestling and having it resonate with so many people, this thing that we love, this community in a sense that we love, that you could see in Chicago, see at that United Center, that from just like, first off, from the amount of ticket sales that, you know, with a sellout building and that to me was almost as impactful in the situation as Punk himself. Now, I definitely have talked shit about Punk. I definitely have disliked some of his stuff that he's done throughout his career. I still don't condone what he did, you know, regarding Colt Cabana and some of the lawsuits regarding that.
Yeah.
But I think that he did a pretty excellent job of addressing a lot of those concerns without naming them outright. And I came away as a much bigger Punk fan from his promo than what I originally was. Did you feel the same?
I felt the exact same way. And you could just tell, I think, the way that we're talking about it as wrestling fans and how much it meant, and not being a huge Punk fan, either of us. I mean, one, he's opened up that door to prove me wrong and get me on board, right? When I see him in the ring, and see him continue to do this stuff. But you could tell that he was definitely talking from the heart. And that's something that where he was talking when he said, you know, I did it for like you all, but he's like, I did it for me. I did it, you know, he did it for pro wrestling. I think that was, he really just kind of like humanized and related to the fans and everyone in pro wrestling, you know, in general. And without commenting directly on some of those things, I think that he did a very good job at stating the things that he needed to. I was really surprised, actually, earlier this morning. I read an article with Booker T talking shit on the promo and saying that,
I read this too, and it just came across like such WWE company, like play by the corporate rule book as being the company player for WWE more than anything, because I couldn't disagree more with what Booker T said. It's as simple as that. Like he was stating in a lot of sense that I don't understand why CM Punk spent so much time talking about his previous companies. Like he should have let AEW shine more. I didn't get that impression in the goddamn slightest.
Yeah, I did not either. And, and so I pulled it up here, what he said.
Please,
and he said,
yeah.
CM Punk is back, man. And I can't do his voice, but you can just envision it. Is back, man. I got a chance to witness the return of CM Punk. I don't know. You guys out there are big AEW fans. You guys agree to disagree with me. But me, I'm always telling it like it is. You know that. And I'm going to tell it like it is on this one right here as well. I want all of the listeners, I need you guys to challenge me on this one. And we fucking will.
We're doing it right now.
Me on what I'm talking about. CM Punk came back and he had 10 full minutes to go out there and make his point as far as CM Punk being back. He had the perfect crowd to be able to go out there and really, I'm talking about have a party up in that
First
United
off, Booker,
setup.
check your watch, because I think he was out there for closer to 20 than 10.
20, yeah, definitely. But CM Punk came back and took his moment and chose to talk about WWE. That right there was just a total miss as far as I'm concerned. He struck out. I can only imagine if The Rock had that same 21,000 in Miami, Florida. The Rock would have talked about every landmark in Miami and that everybody in Miami frequented. He would have had those fans going crazy with the excitement, which I disagree. Those are two different people. He was talking to wrestling fans, not just people from Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Was he in saying that he should just be pumping up the city of Chicago? He didn't need to do that. They were all in the palm of his hand by the time he took the stage. By the time he came through before he came through the curtain,
the chance at the beginning when they went live of CM Punk. It was insanely loud.
If anything, I'm looking at what you're saying, Booker T, as kind of, you don't think that The Rock would have been as good at this, because The Rock would have needed to pander to his home city rather than just being cheered for the influence and of the magnitude of what this is. CM Punk needed none of that. He didn't mention the Bulls. He didn't mention a sports team.
Yep.
He didn't mention the Pier. All these things that are hugely like part of Chicago culture, because he didn't fucking need to. It was the last thing he needed to do. And to the second point, he didn't need to mention WWE a ton, and he really didn't. He mentioned the other place like once, when he was talking about how I may have disappointed you fans. I'm sorry, and the fans at that point, just to prove Booker so wrong, when he's saying this, the fans are like, no, don't apologize. You're fine. You're good. They're going crazy for don't apologize for some of the sins that CM Punk has committed. CM Punk has been a real kind of, this is what a lot of your wrestling fans don't want to talk about. He's been a real fucking asshole in some of his time off. He's been bitter towards the industry. He's been bitter towards me and you as fans, not directly, but all of us as fans. He's said some nasty words. He even used the term fake in quite a lot of things, especially when he was going through his UFC bullshit. Good 0-0 there, Punk. Phil. But my point is, he probably didn't need to do that, but I'm glad he did. He atoned for his sins in a very, very classy way, a very thought-out way, and again, made me like him more than when he began. Because in what he did, he said, I'm sorry for abandoning you, needed to do it for my own mental health, which is important, and was clear through some of his social media interactions and throughout these 7 years. But did you get the opinion, Matthew, that part of what he was saying in that was also a little bit of an apology for what he has done to Colt Cabana and the relationship that might be tarnished there. I think that part of his sorry without saying sorry was directed partly at the leaving of WWE, but also partly at what he and Colt went through and that did to wrestling fans. I think he was acknowledging it without being specific.
I think so too, and I think that's why it's so easy for people to say, "Oh, it's just the WWE run."
No,
right?
It was
because
more than that.
I think he more directly addressed that WWE run when he said, "My last pro wrestling match was," and he talked about the Ring of Honor match, right? So I think that really drew the line in the sand, and that kind of marked that direct comment at WWE. Whereas when he apologized without directly apologizing, but saying, I abandoned those types of things, I think that all of that's rolled up. I don't think it's just WWE, and I think a lot of people think it's just WWE without thinking about all these other things that you're talking about. And one of the biggest ones is with him and Colt Cabana.
Yep.
And with Colt Cabana being in AEW, there has to be
I have a feeling they must have talked, and they probably talked before he stepped foot in the locker room, and just, I'm sure, I wouldn't have even.
I guarantee you, Tony Khan was like, "You guys have to have a conversation. You don't have to like each other.
Don't have to be best friends,
but this is a fucking place of work, and this, and I'm running this, and I need you guys to have a fucking civil conversation and be able to be okay without upsetting the locker room, letting any sort of egos or anger or resentment or anything like that bleed into it, because what we're doing here is more important than that and what happened, just because this isn't just about you. Also, I need you all to hash this out so that we can keep doing this." And I think that that's probably a big, I think it probably went down something like that, because CM Punk has a lot of pull, and I'm sure whatever his contract is, he was able to get a lot of things, but Tony Khan has a fuck ton of money and owns that company. So he actually has more of a pull when it comes to that. And if he says, "I'm running this business and this company," sure, I'm willing to give you this, and this. But
now, if I'm Colt Cabana, I'm being like, "Yo, well, maybe pay me the difference out from, what that lawsuit cost me, which is reportedly around $1 million, to Colt, out of Colt Cabana's pocket." I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Khan slipped him a few too, and just to be like, "Yeah, you are probably right." And it would be nice if maybe in the future Punk kind of makes nice on that financial deal as well. After all, towards the end of the promo, and yeah, we're jumping a little ahead of ourselves, but at the end of the promo, he announces, of course, that, "Oh, and by the way, get your free ice cream bar on the way out." I didn't realize this until I think yesterday or the day before. Punk fitted the bill for every one of those ice cream bars. That was out of Punk's pocket. If Punk fit the bill for that, well, then he should probably throw 70,000 or 100,000 Colts way to be like, "Yo, sorry, here's your legal fees."
And who's to say that he hasn't?
And that's true. And that's true
too. That might never come out.
And I kind of hope it doesn't. But viewer, now I feel stupid. What happened with Colt and Punk? Well, it was an issue that really got started after Punk had left the WWE, and it was really related around Punk being on Colt's Art of Wrestling podcast, in which they talked about, God, I forgot the goddamn guy's name, but he was sort of the head of the medical division of WWE at the time. He was their head doctor. And so there was a lawsuit that came against, I believe, Punk by the doctor to Punk, saying, what is it, slander, one of these, legal terms. And then Punk basically sort of threw that on Colt because it was on Colt's podcast, that therefore Punk, or that Colt was responsible. I'm very much, making it as stupid simple, and know there's more to it than that. But you got to understand, Punk and Colt were lifelong friends, wrestling friends, knew each other for years, and Punk was far more popular, far more worth a lot more money. You're just far more rich, wealthy rather. And yes, for most wrestling fans, from what we know about it, Punk kind of screwed Colt.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm on the right. I know
you
most
100%
right.
are. So a little bit more detail. It was so let's see. So CM Punk's appearance on the Art of Wrestling podcast was his tell-all interview and has gone on to become one of the most famous shoot interviews of all time. Punk discussed his misery at the last few years of his WWE run, his frustration at the company and Vince McMahon, and made allegations against WWE's doctor at the time, Dr. Chris Amon. The interview resulted in WWE suing CM Punk and Colt Cabana after CM Punk alleged that Amon was responsible for Punk contracting methicillin-resistant staphylococcus.
Basically a staph infection.
Basically MRSA staph infection. Punk also blamed Amon for providing medical treatment, which caused a lump on Punk's back to get worse. WWE and Chris Amon sued CM Punk and Colt Cabana for this. A lawsuit CM Punk won, but at a cost. The lawsuit appeared to rip the friendship between CM Punk and Colt Cabana. After the trial was revealed both men had filed lawsuits against each other for the way it was handled. Cabana claims that CM Punk offered to pay Cabana's legal fees during the Amon lawsuit, that he and Punk had a verbal contract. Cabana argued that CM Punk should reimburse him for the legal fees he incurred after Punk's legal team were no longer handling his side of the lawsuit. Many fans took the Colt's side. However, in 2019, CM Punk took to Twitter to comment on the lawsuit between the men. Punk called Cabana greedy and alleges that Cabana tried to extort him. So there was a tweet from someone saying that Cabana is the sweetest, most genuinely loved human being I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. Me too. And I've witnessed the pain and hurt all of this has caused since the dicking around of your word, Punk, the exhaustion, stress, the sadness. Fuckity bye, you utter ball bag. Colt abides. And then CM Punk tweeted back, "Why did he settle then? I wanted it to go to trial. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Enjoy donating to the eventual Woe Is Me GoFundMe account."
I think with all of this too, it is two friends that really, I think things just boiled over. You never want, it's like with family, right? Never get into business with friends or family. And this is kind of one of these situations where Colt was just so much less of in a prominent position than Punk and far less popular and worth far less money, that I do think that, you know, maybe there was some jealousy from Cabana at times. And I do think that maybe, you know, it could have been handled better from both parties. And let's just hope, honestly, let's just hope though that water can be put under the bridge, that the two, like, I would love to see them one day on television. Like, it's a tag match, they're both in teams together,
that's gonna happen,
and there's that one moment where at the end of a match there's an acknowledgement, there's a small hug, there's a handshake, or there's let's move it forward. It sounds like that this was a verbal agreement that got out of hand. That's probably what it is. And when you're dealing with the sort of lawyers with WWE involved, I can't imagine that's very comfortable for anyone. So it's up to you to make your own decisions about who's right, who's wrong. In this case, they're probably both right, and they're probably both wrong. And that's a lot of legal cases.
Exactly. And I think we'll also never know the full story, you know, but I can see Punk screwing someone like Colt Cabana. Seems like such a fucking genuinely
and
nice guy.
Especially with how bitter Colt was towards all of professional wrestling, its fans, it's like
Punk, not Colt.
Yes, I can see Punk being so angry at the whole world of wrestling that you would maybe make rash decisions and try and maybe disassociate yourselves from friends in the industry and be pissed off at them for maybe no reason. So that's where, in my mind, I would always support Cabana, because realistically, Colt's made this his entire life and never once taken a break and always just kept a pretty goddamn positive attitude about everything, really, because of his love of the game. We're only seeing that, you know, Punk did still have the love of the game, and maybe it's just come back in the last couple of years. But we don't even know that yet either. And I'm not trying to talk shit about Punk. It's an amazing thing that just happened. But is the love of the game kind of the Lesnar love of the game, which involves greenbacks? You know, is I don't think it is, because of that moment that you see in his eyes, that crowd. You know, it's the same thing that happened with Edge, right? Like that walk through the curtain, it hits you, and the oh shit, tear in the eye, overwhelmed feeling. Punk absolutely had that, and his promo was so honest and so true that he's either the world's best fucking actor or it's real.
I don't think I would have gotten the feels. I think we all would have been able to tell if it was put on.
Me too.
Right? I mean, and I think that he in that promo, he did say, you know, I didn't rehearse what I was going to say or something to that effect. Right. I mean, he probably had an idea. He probably had some bullet points.
Of course he
did. It did seem like he was going to see what the reaction was and get out there and then speak from his heart. That is the feeling I got.
He read the room. He had a few, like you said, a few bullet points. I thought the Britt Baker stuff at the beginning was class, to put something, to put like her over right out of the gate. Of course, putting Darby over by the end of it, and also hinting at future, you know, opponents and storylines that might come down the road, which we will definitely get to. But before we do that, one big thing that involves this entrance that I am disgusted by the wrestling community for attacking is there was a fan in the audience during this entrance that was obviously so overwhelmed with his emotion during such a big moment.
Oh, the one who was crying?
The one that was bawling. And there have been, there was so many nasty things that were said about this kid. That say this kid, he's probably, you know, my age or whatever. Like, he looked a bit younger, but say call it mid-20s, like late 20s, right? Like, this was a guy he probably grew up as he was the biggest fan of when he was a teenager. Now he's in his early 20s and Punk is returned, right? Like, the
dude probably helped him get through some shit. He was probably a role model. He was probably, and you know what? Fuck all those people saying that. That is one bullshit. To be able to pull that type of emotion, like, fuck you. You've never teared up or gotten emotional about some shit that, like,
you ever watched a movie and shed a
or whatever. And you know what? I'll be fucking honest. There, like, I wasn't like bawling, but there, like, I choked up a bit. Like,
if he was my guy, and he was coming back in that same manner, you bet your ass my eyes would have been full of tears.
But I took a few deep breaths and like kind of caught myself in the moment, just because I was like, whew, wow. I was like, this is fucking powerful. It is, and you can't deny that it's fucking powerful. So the fact that it would be more powerful to drive someone to tears and to make fun of them, fuck all of you.
Also, why are you watching wrestling? The whole point of wrestling is within a promo, within a match, if it's done well, it's supposed to elicit an emotional reaction. If you're not watching it for that, why are you watching?
And how many times did we say during the pandemic that we needed fans back because of the reaction and the genuine reactions, not just the fucking screaming and the booing or the, oh, when something happens, right? Like, it's that reaction. It's seeing that. It's seeing the connection and people. It's in the
That's what Booker T is missing from this promo, by the way. We mentioned that earlier, but that's what he is missing. He did not have that connection, that emotional reaction and connection. That's why he doesn't feel the way we feel, probably.
That makes sense.
I'd also go, like, I'd love to just like say, I you know, to that guy, we're one of you. You're one of us, and I would be happy to stand by you at a wrestling show with a thing so monumental, put my arm around you and cry with you in that same moment. Because that's another thing, too. When you're in that live environment, Like, it's so much more powerful than when you're watching it home on television. Like,
imagine being there. I don't know anyone who was there, but imagine being there. Like, you could just hear how fucking loud it was. I mean, didn't they say that they're trying, like, someone was nominating or saying they were going to put it in like the Guinness Book of World Records or something, like for the loudest wrestling pop ever or something? I mean, it was giant.
They just have no way to absolutely quantify it, so they can't. That's fine. But it's goddamn near the top. It's in the Mount Rushmore of those pops.
This return will be, and this promo will be talked about. It is
for years to come.
Like it forever, for all of wrestling history. It will never not be talked about.
So I'm really happy to hear that a lot of wrestlers have come out of the the woodworks and been like sending this guy stuff. I'd love to hear his story of like what he ends up getting from this, because like Tommy Dreamer was apparently sending him stuff. A lot of other people were trying to find him and send him merch and just be like, don't fuck
listen
these
to
guys.
Those people.
Don't
fucking
listen to
be
those
true
people.
to yourself. Don't listen. If I got one hater, I need two. If I got two haters, I need three. If I got three, I need four. Means I'm probably doing something right that they don't fucking like. So, you know what? I hope that kid just
cheers
saying, you know
cheers
what?
to crying kid, because we're on your team, buddy.
Exactly.
We've
Tell
all
the world
been
eat
there.
a bag of dicks.
Exactly. That being said, let's talk a little bit then about what you do with Punk moving forward. Clearly, we're going to have this Darby match.
Which, by the way, I've said this about Darby Allin matches quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he just gets fucking tossed around.
Yep.
And then he ends up doing his coffin drop, or like hitting him with the skateboard and then doing the coffin drop or something and then coming back, right? He usually just gets beat to fucking oblivion. Looks like he's just like some sub.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been a little bit over Darby Allin as well, right?
I have been. I 100% have been. And it's because of that. Mm-hmm. It's not because of the story and everything else that's been going on. It's just
lack of skill or whatever, right?
No, not at all. Yeah, exactly. It's just that when it comes to the storytelling in the matches, he shows up, he gets the shit beaten out of him for a while.
Yeah.
Then he does and I think he's better than that. And I wish that he would show a little bit more than that. So I'm actually hoping that this match with CM Punk, we're going to see that. And because we're not just going to see a beating and him taking it, because
I think we're going to see a good story in this. Like, and as much as there's no story, because there's no story, and it's just maybe like, it's kind of like, we know it's a respect match. We know that Punk has respect for Darby. He's one of the guys that he stated that he would like to work with. Darby clearly has said now.
You think it's because he's straight edge?
I mean, it doesn't probably hurt, right? Like it probably doesn't hurt, but at the same time, I think there are definite cool little parallels they can play with that there. But this is a face versus face match. At the core of it, it's a face versus face honor match. But also a match based out of respect. So I do 100% see that Darby will lose.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's like you can't do this
a
traditional
typical
Darby match where he gets the shit beaten out of him.
Right.
I think we're going to see a little bit more action out of him, and I think Punk's going to want to let that happen also. And then also he said, Darby, I'll see you at All Out, or and then he said, and Sting, I'll see you. So I wonder because he specifically called Sting out too.
Yeah, he did.
Not that he's part of the match, but obviously he's with Darby Allin. But I don't think he would have. Wonder what's going to happen in the match, or I think you think they're going to stand toe to toe for a second or something like that.
I think what that's going to lead to is a very much a handshake celebration at the end. That the guys went the distance, and there'll be the handshake with Darby after the match, or and then the handshake with Sting. And of course, one of the main like story components with this whole thing is that Darby's not just facing him in Houston, Texas, or he's not facing him in Orlando or Jacksonville. No, Darby is facing him in Chicago, and it was very explicit that one of the most dangerous things you can do is go up against CM Punk, but even more dangerous is going up against him in Chicago. There's no way in hell they have CM Punk lose his first match in Chicago, let alone probably his first match in AEW. Do you see it being his first match? Because I personally do. I don't see that they need to put him on TV before that.
Oh no,
100%. Well, they can put him on TV, but not have a match, is what I'm saying.
They're definitely not going to have a match, and you know that just because at the very end he said on pay-per-view. He is selling like buys right there.
Yep.
Like 100% selling buys. You would be stupid to put him in a match before that.
There's also then the possibility, because it's such a big deal with the Chicago situation, that maybe later down the road, maybe not right away, but you can also have, well, how does Darby do in Seattle, his hometown, when they go there, right? Like, now you have, like, the dichotomy of maybe Darby can win it in his hometown or a place that's a little bit more, not as home-friendly, shall we say, as for CM Punk. So I think there's an ongoing story there that you can tell that can also be, like, the respect match further down the line. That being said, who do you have if Punk does beat Darby? Where do you go next? And who are your... I mean, I know it's such a cliche question that's been going around this last week or two, but who do you have? Like, who would you like top of mind, maybe your top 3 in AEW that Punk goes, toe-to-toe with?
I think we'll probably have a couple of similar ones on here. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go one for one?
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah. Because I could list a few right off the bat, but I would like to see. I think him and Moxley.
Him and Moxley's an excellent match, and I don't know that those two have ever locked up. So that would be probably pretty interesting. I think those dynamics will work well, both in character and ring style. That's maybe one of the ones that he's hinting at in the promo of, there's some issues in the locker room and what have you. And Moxley has been cutting these promos about, kind of hinting without saying the name, but sort of hinting at CM Punk as well. So I do think that's on the cards, but then when we also get to other people, I'll take mine, with this, we're going to have to get the Jericho match eventually, right? Like, as much as we don't really want it, like, as much as there's a million other matches in AEW we probably want to see, Punk and Jericho will happen.
Yeah, it will. It 100% will. Which, by the way, side note, I don't know if you saw it this morning. I got a Twitter notification that Jericho tweeted, and someone had posted a picture of their friend. Super fucking sad, but it was like, hey, he has stage 4 colon cancer. There's a picture of this guy, and he's like, and the guy who sent it, his name was Adam, the guy who posted it, right?
Okay.
And he tweeted it, I am Jericho, and I forget who else, but he was like, hey, this is my friend Alan, and he's battling stage 4 cancer, and he fucking loves you guys as pro wrestlers, and you guys have helped him through so fucking much.
Give him a shout out type thing,
if you could say anything or send some love, it would fucking mean the world.
I already know what you're gonna say.
So Jericho posted, but he said Adam.
Right, the
Alan.
guy that was sending it, not
it was just like, if you had taken the extra fucking second, man. Like, I know the intention was good, you saw it and wanted to, but fuck, botch.
Yeah, that sucks. That sucks, especially in such a situation like that.
Situation, right. So, but on to sorry, that was just a side note, a little wrestling tidbit from this morning when I was drinking my coffee. But yeah, so that happened, and then so Jericho, this one, I think I would really like to see this. It's going to take a minute for this one to happen, depending on. I know he's about to have a baby. He's already off for a while. There's them pending him and Kenny, but Hangman and CM Punk could be a good match.
That works definitely too. I mean, if you do want to play into the straight edge versus the alcoholic cowboy, you know, like the drunk cowboy, whatever, you can definitely do that. And that does work, because I would love to see a lot of new pairings with Punk. I feel like we're gonna end up getting like maybe even. I've thought there was one little comment when they did the
Cole Cabana.
Well, all kidding aside, you could absolutely do that.
Never say never, man.
You could never say never, and I think that would draw. I also think you can go with something that they hinted at in the presser after, the thing, after Rampage, where, Tony Khan rather is sitting there just like a little kid, just like so giddy and like, you got him. I told you. And, but no, there was a comment, and he about this exact question. He named off a few people. I think Jungle Boy was in there. I think a few others, but one of the things he said, and maybe some people that aren't here yet. And that, of course, leads me to believe that we'll probably get a Punk Bryan Danielson match in the nearest future, because those guys, let's be real, like, I'm sure Dbry or Bryan Danielson at this point, he's only got so many matches left. I'm sure he can go, but he doesn't want to go all the time.
He's going to make them count.
And he's going to make them count.
That was his whole thing with WWE. Remember, he wanted to work a less schedule, and he's going to make them count. So this would be one of those matches. Like, that very potentially could be one of those matches that could be huge. And then I think of guys just like, man. Think of like a Ray Phoenix and him. Like, those are just kind of two different
Sammy Guevara absolutely works in that. Ricky Starks works in that.
Ricky Starks works.
Like, these are all. I know he's expressed also interest in doing some stuff with Brian Pillman Jr., which, cool.
Well, and I think that's what we have to look at too, is like the younger people that he respects, because I think that's kind of what we're seeing with Darby, right? And the start of that, and the shout out to Britt Baker, I think he wants to, as he should, use his clout to help these younger stars turn into bigger stars. So it can't always, we will get the Jericho, right? We will get hopefully the Danielson match, but we need to have these other matches that are. So even when I say Ray Phoenix, I'm like, but he's already established as one of the best fucking luchadors that there is. They could have a great match. So
but not to American audiences in that way.
That's true.
That would be a great way to break him on the scene more. I would even say beyond like a Jungle Boy, but a Luchasaurus would be a great one to give him some legitimacy. I think a lot of people they can't get past that it's a wrestling dinosaur, right? But the guy's so good that it could absolutely be done. I don't think you need to, as much as him and Moxley is such a money match, those are going to be fewer and far between than him versus your Ricky Starks or your the up and come, like we were just saying, like your younger talent. So, maybe even that, what is it, Daniel Garcia, who they're really pushing right now. Like some guys like that now that he is there too in the locker room, and hopefully will be there most weeks for Dynamites or Rampages, you get the feeling that he'll probably start seeing more of these people, meeting these people in person, and being like, "Oh, I like you. I'll give you the rub," or I'll work with. I want to work with that guy, and I think you'd probably agree with what we know about Tony Khan and what they've done so far. That ain't gonna be a problem, because Tony's probably gonna be like, as long as it fits somewhat into his general idea of how he's booking, AEW in general, feel like Tony Khan's going to be just fine letting CM Punk pick a guy here and there and having a match. And
yep.
You know, it's a wonderful time to be a wrestling fan and an AEW fan in particular, but it does change the landscape completely. And I don't think that you know, it changes the landscape within the context of competition for WWE, but it also changes, I believe, the whole AEW landscape. And I was wondering, you know, what else are the moving pieces in your mind of where they go next with how they move forward, especially post this announcement and this debut? I don't think that you really disrupt the title picture with Kenny, because I think that's fairly set. And I don't know that you shoehorn Punk into that right away.
I don't think he needs it. He doesn't need a title right now.
Let me ask you this then. How does that work with guys like Aleister Black or Malachi Black or Bryan Danielson or even now what's going on with the TNT Championship? Like, does any of this sort of work in that context with MIRO? I mean, we've obviously now just had MIRO sort of call out Eddie Kingston. Is any of this in that picture for you, or is it like? And I'm talking your recent debuts with all, like, we'll start as early as Andrade to Malachi to Punk to maybe now, you know, fucking we'll get to it, but you know, a Bryan Danielson, and then even before it, maybe even an Adam Cole. Can all of those guys survive without belts, or shouldn't one of two of them be in those pictures? And how do you see that coming about?
I mean, I think that depends on, that's a great question, because if AEW is about wins and losses and you're bringing in all of this talent,
not all of them can win
them all.
No,
you can't have them win at all. So there's got to be some fuckery involved if you're going to keep those stats up and help put some of the younger talent over, right? But you're playing this game. It's this weird scale of trying to balance
who has more legitimacy that can take a loss and doesn't have to win all the time.
I think they need another belt. I think like the TNT one, I think the time to do it would be in December when they go to TBS.
When they move over.
And I don't think they call it the TBS title or whatever, but they can keep the TNT title. And I think and I don't know if it's going to be, because they've talked about the 6-man tag belts, right?
And I do like that idea.
I like that too, because it can group a lot of people who deserve.
But that's not right for
together.
Some of these.
But it's not right for the people that we're talking about, because they're not going to be in 3-man tags, right? Tag teams or 6-man tags, but 3-person teams. So
I wonder if they could do...
like with Punk, I think this one, like this first one, makes sense with Darby, because it's I'm the best in the world.
Yep.
Right. But you can't then have everybody just saying that, and then he's on a tear to prove he's the best in the world without a fucking title. But fucking eventually, Kenny has been fucking noted as the fucking best in the world legitimately.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 in the world legitimately, So, but you can't take them there too soon. That's the thing. You can't take all of these guys there too soon. So how do you build the programs? And I think you really have to make the 4 pay-per-views count and tell the arcs and the stories.
I think we have to rely on the Forbidden Door a bit for this one, because I think you've got to rely on the New Japan Strong title, the U.S. title, essentially, the New Japan U.S. title, or whatever they call it. But New Japan Strong U.S. Championship, I believe, something along those lines. I think that they've already proven is kind of something that they can have defended on, Dynamites have defended on pay-per-views within an AEW context. I think that that would be, a positive thing. And yes, maybe we've seen the end, of course, just now of, Kenny having the Impact TNA Championship. But, we've obviously just got Christian take it. Maybe we can also utilize that in other ways as well. That you can have Daniel Bryan with the New Japan Championship, or Aleister Black with it, or Malachi Black with an Impact Championship. Like, these are things where I don't think that the door has even been fully opened yet. Like, there's possibilities that without creating new belts, we can utilize. Does that make sense?
Like, it makes 100% sense. I think I think you hit the nail on the head. You kind of have to, right? Yeah. I think you kind of have to.
Because otherwise you're just going to be creating belts out of thin air, and there's nothing worse than that. There's nothing worse when they just decide there's a universal championship and it has no lineage. Unless, at least with the TNT championship, they're trying to build that into something of a new championship. They've had to do it with the AEW championship but they've had to do that with several top stars, be it Jericho, Moxley, now Omega. So with a belt like the TNA championship or Impact championship, with the, a new belt in the same almost position as the New Japan US championship, those are ways that they can all scratch each other's back, give legitimacy to the belt, while also giving legitimacy to the person winning the belt.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I think you, like I said, you hit the nail on the head, and that has to happen. I hadn't fully thought of that, actually. And it'll add the legitimacy of like opening up and like everything being about for pro wrestling and making pro wrestling and that community better, because they can't shut all of those doors as quickly as they've just kind of creaked them open, right?
It would be a terrible move. It would be a terrible move.
You can't peek in, right? And then do that, especially with what they've just done with Christian. I think that solidified even more that, okay, we're starting to go this way. And I think you have to, because there's only so many hours. I mean, fuck, I don't know how many hours of wrestling you watched this weekend, but Jesus.
Enough.
Like, dude, okay, so I watched all of it until I couldn't watch. I watched the NXT, and then I watched Joe's entrance when he was backstage and then walked out, and then Karrion Kross, which on Raw we'll get to that.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but
it deserves. I don't even know if that deserves fucking comment.
Oh, it absolutely deserves comment.
But he looked like a fucking shredder in a fucking like sauna, like with the red fucking lights. It's fucking horrible.
He looked like Gimp Demolition. That's what he looked like.
Fucking so stupid. But and then I watched his entrance and the fans chanting "We want Scarlet," and then I had to turn it off. But I'd watched every bit of wrestling.
I mean, that's doing damn good, man. That's doing
up until then, and then I had something to do, and I meant to go back and watch it, and I still mean to go back and watch it, and I haven't. But fuck, man, to that point, there's only so much wrestling one can watch, and so there's only so much AEW programming. So you kind of have to push it to these other areas
exactly
a little bit because
if you're an Impact guy, you're excited about Christian as your new champion, and you're gonna be more likely to watch Impact. You're gonna also be more likely to watch AEW as well. But now you've got an exciting reason for you to watch Impact's championship or their show rather. I also feel that the last little holdout on this, I do think it will happen eventually, because we've seen so many glimpses of it with the women's division, is that maybe we now can have the NWA men's championship in that mix as well as part of that forbidden door. With Nick Aldis, I mean, think about Nick Aldis and some of the competition that we're just, talking about, right? Like, there's, like, the NWA championship possibly, could be defended on both their show and AEW Dynamite or whatever. And I want to see Malachi Black kick Nick Aldis's face off and become, imagine that, right? Like, what a perfect little match that they could do on either show. But Malachi Black not winning a single belt not to say he even needs it right now, but what a way to do it without just shitting a belt out of thin air. Because now you can have the first AEW guy winning an NWA men's championship against a top star who's held that belt for a long time.
Yeah.
And you can have a new star born over there, like things like that. And that's what I want to see.
Yeah, and if you look at AEW and what they've done with the few belts that they have, because like you said, they're building that lineage, they're building that history. They're not playing hot potato with these belts.
No.
They need people to hold them, and they're having people hold them for a long time to establish credibility. And so when you're getting this many people, like we're talking about, the only other option is creating belts out of thin air, which I still think they do have an option in December if they wanted to add one. I don't know what that would be. I don't know, but I think it would have
maybe
to
a light heavyweight.
Like that's what I was gonna say, a lightweight or like a.
We talked about the
middleweight.
We talked about the X division type championship that exists in Impact. That's probably what they should do. It's kind of like a cruiserweight and a Extreme Rules championship mixed into one. That could work quite well for AEW. Some form of belt like that. I don't know what the hell you call it, but like I think a focus on your flippy motherfuckers with a little bit more hard hitting stuff than a typical quote unquote cruiserweight or light heavyweight championship.
Yeah. Oh, which makes me think. That was one that we should have talked about. CM Punk and Pac.
Oh, that's a great call. That's a really good call. And yes, that works very well as characters. I'm all about that. And as the show goes on, feel free. If they pop into your head, shout them. Shout them, because there's so many. There really are so many. I mean, dude, I wouldn't hate an Orange Cassidy Punk match. Nope. They'll make that work.
They will make that work.
They'll make that work, and he will put Punk will put OC over more than he even needs. I mean, honestly, who isn't down for that? If you're not down for that, because that's money. That's money.
That's a money match.
That's pay-per-view. That's pay-per-view headlining worthy match. And just as like a little sidebar, keep talking about the legacies of these AEW belts. One of the things with the TNT Championship that's been so interesting in building that legacy is with almost every championship or champion, they've sort of changed the design of the belt. Some by, of course, more necessity in the early days, and now it seems like a kind of cool way to transition the belt to a new person. That when that, like, I hope they continue that tradition of you have the original shitty belt with Cody before it even had the gold plating because of the pandemic.
Yeah, so it upgrades each time.
Then you had obviously Huber win it. God damn it, I just forgot it. Brody Lee win it. I just remembered his real name. So then you had Brody Lee win it, and Brody Lee had it as like the first finalized version of the red strap TNT title. Then it went back to Cody, who won that one, right?
Yep.
Then you had Darby win it.
Yep.
Who had the black strap on with the finalized plates. And now you have MIRO with the white strap and the green, stuff for it. So if they were to, I think it's probably a little bit more by accident than design, but why not run with it? Because it gives that.
Because that's better than changing faceplates out or something like that.
It just gives it a. I mean, I'm sure it's more expensive, but it gives it a cooler legacy over time to have, especially if you're going to keep it on a quote unquote TV champion who should have those belts for a while, right?
Yeah.
If they're running with a belt for 2 belts a year, do 2 belts a year and make the next champion have a different one. Like that.
They have the money.
They can do it. Come on, Tony.
They can do it.
You can do it.
If you're changing some leather.
Right. Exactly. I wanted to bring up the next big thing, which is still, of course, AEW related and debut related and all that type of stuff. But it's, of course, very spooky. Very, very spooky. We're going to have to bring someone back from the dead. Ooh. How do you feel about it? What are your gut reactions on a seance, a back from the Bullet Club dead Adam Cole, baby?
I mean, I'm for it. There's nothing for him to do in NXT. I don't give a fuck if he was offered $1 million like it was claimed for a contract for WWE by Vince. I don't give, because we all know that those contracts don't mean shit. Like, Braun had $1 million contract and they fucked him out and like they ruined his character. I mean, so many people have. I mean, The Fiend, like, and you can just get cut. Like, I think Adam Cole likes wrestling and loves wrestling enough to want to be there. Obviously, he has connections with his little lady friend being there and connections with all of his other homies.
He's got way more connections than his little lady friend. I think he's got.
And it makes sense. I mean, if you like, and I'm sure, did you watch that match on NXT TakeOver?
I haven't actually finished it, if I'm being quite honest.
Well, the steel cage part was just stupid. It was short, and it was like, I don't even know why you did that. Like,
unnecessary.
You may as well just had one of them win it in two. I don't know. I guess it was but it was just so quick, but you could just tell, like, through that finish, or I guess I could tell just as a fan, probably, reading all the dirt sheets and, knowing what's going on in the background. It's like, yeah, he's done. He's done there. Yeah. Like, and where else would he fit in? Like, perfectly.
I mean,
let's be honest. He could fit in other places, but not perfectly.
No, I mean, he could go to New Japan, no problem, tomorrow if he wanted. Like, that would be fine.
But it's not a perfect fit.
Not like this.
That's what I'm saying.
Like
it's not a perfect fit.
And I mean, that's just begs the question: what do you do with Adam Cole if you are AEW and you bring him in? I mean, do you make him super elite straight off the bat? Do you have him? I think, quite frankly, if they play their timing right, and by some of the rumors and just kind of innuendo from Omega and all that, I think that this is the in-between between Omega Hangman and Omega Christian, which is happening now. I think this would be perfect to bring him in as a top star, and I think that you can literally have Adam Cole, Kenny Omega for the title right off the bat, first feud into the company, not as part of the Elite, and then even do some weird little twist at the end where maybe it doesn't really even matter who wins, but the two can even stay friendly and become part of the same stable, and Kenny can be like, I needed some time off. Have it for a little while, bud. Like, we brought you back from the dead. You can have my championship for a little. You can literally do a million stories with some of this shit.
You could also have Kenny beat him and have Cole do an amazing showing, and then him being like, guess what? I killed you again, and now I'll bring you back to the dead and bring you into the group. You earn my respect, like, or something like that.
There was also an idea that I had, and I posted it pretty drunkenly in the group a few days ago when talking about Adam Cole, and it was like, well, what if we finally are getting our Hangman Kenny match, and then we have the debut during the match of Adam Cole as a run-in, right? Like, oh my God, Adam Cole. Adam Cole screws Kenny, helps Hangman to win the match.
Yep. And then him and Hangman.
But then cheapens Hangman's win because he never quite did it. Never quite did it. He had to, and that's what's also part of Adam Cole's brilliance is he knows that he's doing that. Maybe he was a hired gun for Kenny to do something like that. Fucks with his head. Then you can either have Kenny win it back or have Adam Cole win it from him or have a feud with those two. So, like, I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to pat myself on the back for all the booking decisions, but at the same time, who doesn't want to see Hangman Adam? Who doesn't want to see Kenny Adam? Who doesn't want to see a triple threat between the three of them, man?
Right. I agree with all of that. I think that last one is the way to book it.
Mm-hmm. It keeps people on that hook for Hangman. It keeps him because he's He might even be the champion, but he's
Champion,
still
but you're
not
still rooting for
done
him
it.
as that underdog. Yeah, he hasn't still fully done it. Yep.
That's kind of like the like, and all of us as fans will cringe with that type of thing. Like if those in the know. So a decent idea, but apart from that, I mean, he's got to be AEW bound, and it sounds. I think we were a little, all as wrestling fans, a little optimistic that maybe he could show up on Dynamite this week. Doesn't sound from what I've read that that's going to be the case. His contract did extend till this Friday. Now, who knows what time on the Friday? Could maybe show up on Rampage. So there is that.
I think they're going to be smarter about it.
I think they are too.
I don't think they're going to pull it right away.
And I hope they don't.
They've done it with Malachi. I just don't think they need to. I think they need to do it at a more specific time to make it. And you can't, okay, so you have these other people. You just had this huge pop with Punk. You have to now lay these other ones out strategically, because you can't have pop,
no,
nothing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that realistically too, even just on a human level, give Adam Cole a little bit of a break. He's been in that system for a while, holding down that NXT fort. So give him a couple months. He'll come over. It'll be good. It'll all be all right.
Yeah, I think it'll be all right. I will say, since we were just talking about this, and again, to go back to the CM Punk entrance, did you see the Being the Elite, the intro from the one this past week? I thought that was pretty funny. They're like, come on, wrap it up.
Yep.
Talk.
Jeez. Talk. It was also sweet seeing the couple little clips of him just being like, oh, that for me, that, just the behind the scenes of seeing some of that. And that's kind of why we love it. We'll wrap up our AEW talk for now just a little bit with this last point. And how do you foresee this tag eliminator tournament going? We've just had the first winners of Jurassic Express and Private Party. And then I believe next week it will be the Lucha Brothers and... Shit, I forgot who the other team was. Do you mind pulling that up?
Yeah.
Why is that slipping my mind? I know it... I feel like it doesn't matter who it is in my brain, because I do feel like we're probably going to get Lucha Bros and Private Party in the last match. And do you think they are going with basically a rematch of Jurassic Express for All Out against the Bucks? Or do you think they go with more of a Lucha Bros or whoever they're against? God, who is it?
It's Varsity Blondes.
Varsity Blondes. Yeah, that's not happening. So
it's going to be Lucha Bros and Jurassic Express.
Yeah.
I
lean towards the rematch, man.
Yeah.
And I think they get it this time. I think they get it at All Out. I think Jurassic Express winning the tag belts at All Out works.
I think it works too.
And that also makes sense with kind of what they're doing with the Lucha Bros, Andrade, Pac. Why would they be doing all of that to have them just become the new tag champs? If the Lucha Bros advance, the Young Bucks win. If
100%.
if Jungle Express
or Jurassic Express, then they win.
Then they win. Yeah. Did I say Lucha Express?
Mm-hmm. You said Jungle Express.
Jungle Express. Oh yeah. I think I say that a lot actually. Yeah, whatever. It's the same shit. You guys know what I mean. It should be the Jungle Express. It's better.
It's all right. It's like Pac. Like I am always like Pac.
So
Pac. Tupac.
I still don't get that name really. It's kind of never done anything for me. We should probably go through some of SummerSlam's pros and cons. I definitely don't want to go through every match of this card.
oh, you don't want to spend the next fucking 5 hours, since we've done almost an hour and a half.
I know, right?
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't terrible as a show. It
wasn't terrible. I watched the entire thing from start, and I watched the pre-show.
There was some terrible shit in there.
100% terrible shit. I'm fucking so done with Miz and John Morrison and the drip thing.
Well, we can tie that into, at least now that on Monday Night Raw, we'll tie everything WWE together with, if we want, because why the fuck not?
Yeah.
Seems like after, the whole thing on SummerSlam, now we have, which had to be one of the worst, the worst segment, right, on SummerSlam was the drip shit with Xavier coming out.
Yeah.
Felt bad for Xavier too, because he's so
had to be a part of that.
Had to be part of that. He looked cool. I liked his Razor Ramon gear.
I was gonna say, yeah, and his hair was a little different.
Yeah, he was trying to do the thing. I mean, it must be hard for a black dude, but he was trying to do the thing with the slick back and the little like Superman-y type thing, and he had the toothpick in. But yeah, that was pretty god awful. That was definitely one of the cons, but thankfully on last night's Raw we had a Miz and Morrison breakup, and I guess a Miz turn in a sense, like where Miz will be assuming the heel in that situation. I think I
would think so.
They'll probably fuck that up though, dude. Too like they'll probably actually try and make Morrison the heel, and like that's such a WWE thing to do.
It is
because of the money that like the Miz is worth and has like the show and like how like you watch, they'll fuck that up. They'll make Morrison the heel, and Morrison has been the better part of that whole thing, that duo, for quite a while now.
Yeah, he has been.
So I hope they don't go that route.
I still haven't liked it. I mean,
no,
it's choosing between a turd sandwich and a douchebag,
giant douche. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, and then, I'm done with it. And Logan Paul.
Sami Zayn had a great thing earlier today. It was just like, if Logan Paul had apologized to me, people would have accepted him and not booed him.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Sammy on top of his game as usual. But
SummerSlam. I will say SummerSlam. Before we get to a couple of the things that I think we will, I will say, man, two of the bigger match, like, dude, the Seth Rollins match, awesome,
dude. I mean, that's the proof that WWE can do it.
It delivered, yeah.
It delivered, and it was Seth needed this. Edge, we know, can do it. Seth actually needed this match. We know Seth can do it, but he's not allowed to do it very often.
He's not allowed to do it. And
he has 12-minute matches that are usually perfectly passable matches, but never, like, given the real showcase he deserves. This was one of those matches that, quite frankly, would have been an AEW match. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. First off, Brood entrance, fucking great.
Oh, dude.
Come on.
I popped so hard. He had the sunglasses, and the fire, the music, and then it was kind of cool that he stopped midway down the ramp and
then it went, went into his music. You think you know me?
That song. I hate that.
But
song.
But the match went how I 100% would have hoped it would have gone for.
Match of the night without question, right?
But and then I think back to the matches Edge has had since he's been back and really proving that he can go, and then putting him with Seth, who can go. That was a great fucking pairing.
It was,
it was match of the night for me.
Oh,
for me,
without a doubt.
But I also think Cena Roman fucking was great.
It delivered more than I thought it would. I thought Cena really showed up. I thought
he
Cena really showed up, and we'll talk about the what happened after that match in a sec. But as a match, as a whole, I thought that both of them like really did it. Like I was not disappointed. It went the right amount of time, and it was long, and that's unusual for me to say. Like it went. Yeah. Like it didn't need to be any shorter than it was, and I would usually be like, nah, it was 3 minutes long or whatever.
The storytelling was great.
It was fine. Like I was perfectly fine with how much time that match took because of the position on the card it was and the stakes, and it did it have you, maybe just maybe a couple of times, because it did. For me, it did.
Oh, maybe. Yep.
And I mean,
which is what you want out of the wrestling match. The storytelling was great.
Not the greatest match, but I am very happy that Big E regained his Money in the Bank contract. Yep. Unfortunately for Baron Corbin, but
like we said earlier, he won some fucking money in Vegas.
It's okay.
Recently, so.
Yeah, he's on a different path right now. He doesn't need that briefcase.
He didn't need the briefcase. He doesn't need a belt. He needed a new shirt.
But I'm happy that they did something with it to acknowledge the briefcase's existence and Big E with the briefcase's existence. And now it's like, it gives me a little bit more intrigue as to what he will do with it down the line, whether it be Roman, whether it be Lashley, whether it be after the draft, all this stuff. But at least we know it exists again. And like that was the problem that they had when it was like the Otis last year thing. Like, they just like forgot about it for a while. Like it just, and then they decided that like, the Miz was going to have it. So I'm happy that existed.
What fucking bullshit. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here. I apologize, fam. What fucking bullshit that Bobby Lashley Goldberg, like one, I think we all thought it was going to like, I called Goldberg when we did it. I know Duncan called Lashley. Did you call Lashley?
I called Lashley, yeah.
Okay, so you guys were obviously right. But what a fucking and it just is setting it up for Saudi Arabia, which I should have fucking seen coming. But what a fucking stupid way to do it. If you watched, Bill Goldberg is so fucking bad.
He is terrible. He's not bad. He's dangerous, man.
He's dangerous, but I mean, they're okay. So the first time, I think it was like is it like a scoop slam that he does, right? But the first
whatever
one
he's trying to do,
that he picked him up. Dude, he looked like his legs were about to fucking crumble underneath him, and he was gonna fucking drop him. And then when MVP came up and hit him in the knee, just watch if you were watching the replay, like he doesn't react right away. Then it takes him a second. Then he's like the worst at fucking selling it. And then that bullshit at the end where he just puts his leg up on the fucking rope and is like, I'm calling it. It's like, fuck, like, I don't know. I thought that was just fucking so. I guess it makes Lashley look better. I also personally couldn't fucking care less.
The whole like, I don't know, like the finish of that could have been,
and like he had no idea. MVP's like he could have never known who was attacking him from behind on the microphone, like unneeded.
It's definitely not MVP's fault because he's pretty spectacular, but like if the finish of that match was gonna be something that involved a cheap shot like MVP did have against the leg,
should have been bigger than a cane.
What really should have happened, in my opinion, is while the ref was turned, MVP cracked him like over the head with the cane. And I know you can't get away with headshots in WWE, but something that sort of delivered, like you crack him in the leg, so he's like maybe you'd had the turnbuckle pad ripped off beforehand, so that Goldberg got his leg chopped out from underneath him, and he hits his head on a turnbuckle, falls to the ground, and now he's sort of like out of it, like, days, right? That would have been more acceptable for like a referee having to call off a match than, I can't stand up, I'm tough Bill Goldberg. Like, what a pussy you look, like, number one. Number two, I don't feel bad for your dumbass son. If Bobby Lashley should be allowed to throw around and put in a hurt log anybody that jumps the crowd's barrier and hop into that ring, you're telling a terrible story, WWE, if you're really expecting us to feel sorry for Goldberg and his son for Bobby Lashley protecting himself after the match to defend himself against someone jumping the barrier. What are we? Is that cool now? Like, is that cool now? Like, because I don't know that's ever been cool.
Cool, ever.
And therefore, yeah, your dumbass son deserved every bit of it, Goldberg, and you're absolutely right. This has all been put into place for a Saudi Arabia match, and I don't know when are they're doing it this fall, right? They're doing it.
Yeah, it's got to be. I think it's like, is it? I don't know. Here, I'm gonna look it up. Is it before?
It's not that long away.
It's got to be before or after Extreme Rules or whatever the fuck it is.
There's not a whole lot of stuff that we can say that's great about this show, but one of the things that we can say that was exceptionally bad was, of course, the Becky Lynch return. And like, not only are we doing, I guess, like confusing heel Becky Lynch, I suppose, in the way that she acted. We obviously understand there's something up with Sasha.
But first off, like, can we just address the fact that everyone knew Sasha wasn't going to be, and they had the video packages playing, and they had all of this,
and they knew for 8 days before. They knew apparently for 8 days before. They had 48 hours at least to be able to pull all the old Becky merch, the man shirts, and make sure they were there in the building. But we can't tell our fans that, no, sorry, plans have changed. Like, yeah, we all know card subjects change, but not a match as big as that. You do that when it's goddamn Big E and Baron Corbin and one of them gets hurt. That's fine. Match gets canceled.
And that's the thing. You have 51,300, whatever, how many fucking people you have in that building. But, like, not all of them are like us, reading wrestling news day in and day out and talking about it and, like, looking on the internet and in groups and things like that, talking about it. Where it's not everyone, probably a good chunk of people, but not everyone there, because you could feel how down
they were pissed.
That fucking crowd went.
Because then Carmella, they had Carmella. Why even do that part too? Why even have Carmella come out? Just have the music hit for Becky,
and then for her to squash Bianca
in 20
so
seconds
fucking quickly, not even to let her have any sort of offense. Is fucking stupid.
You can do a 5 minute. You can do a quick 5 minute match with that. You can also then use the Bianca. Well, she, I didn't expect that. I wasn't trained for that. Like, that wasn't the match I was expecting. And taken off of her guard. Fine, that happens. But at least, like you said, make her look somewhat competitive against Becky instead of the man slam or what the hell, like the pump handle slam.
And on top of that, I don't know if it seemed like this to you, but this is something I wanted to bring up, but it seemed like this to me, that I had heard so many rumors reading this, and who knows if it's true. She wasn't really, like, from what I understand, planned to come back until the fall. I think CM Punk had something to do with this. 100%. I think this was a fucking wild card. Like, hey, we fucking need you right now. Yep. Like, we already know you've been at the shows with Seth. You've been showing up at the bigger pay-per-views. But, like, I need you to fucking boot up and strap up and fucking get in there and do 2 moves. Like, I think you could look into so many things. You could say, okay, it was planned. She changed her hair colors, posted on fucking Instagram, and this, that, and the other, and like blah, 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 blah. But it really felt like it wasn't as planned as it could have been to make as big of it. Like, and I think you could even see with the fans, despite it being a heel Becky, which I think they were confused about also. But despite that, I think that I think you could still feel the letdown, like, from the way she squashed Bianca, and like they got that, and then you gave more time to like the fucking drip stick.
Well, yeah, you could have completely eliminated that segment and given these gals at least 5 minutes. And realistically, I think a lot of people were let down with not being able to see a Sasha match, Sasha-Bianca rematch. But I think a lot of people were let down because they didn't even just get to see a Bianca match, which are typically exciting matches. I think you saw, and will continue to see a little bit of backlash about that, post the event. It's going to remain to be seen how well a heel Becky does. I think it's the wrong heat. I don't like it's gonna generate heat with what just happened, but it's not the right type of heat. I don't think that like now we're gonna be put off by Becky Lynch, which is one of your biggest stars. Like you literally just ruined. Like that's what's funny about WWE. Oh, we're gonna be assholes and try and counter book your CM Punk debut by bringing back Becky and of course later on Brock. But we're gonna ruin one right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
And
you could tell everyone was excited. I actually even said out loud, I was like, "Oh shit, they brought Becky back," and I was like, "That's big," but it felt insincere to me. Which it did feel insincere. The crowd did pop fairly loud, but then you ruined that with the way that it was handled. They were a lot quieter on her way up that ramp with that belt than they were, when the music first hit, because they didn't expect what happened to happen. And that's fair. They even could have done her hitting. They even could have done, if they wanted to do it properly, they could have actually done Carmella and Bianca, let Bianca have a match, get some showing, win, and then Becky comes out and says she wants a shot,
or tries to do the handshake, and I'm next type thing, huge pop, and then somehow maybe a chair gets involved, or some brass knuckles or whatever, something to definitively do that heel turn. I know they tried to do that with the handshake and then the instant hit you in the face. But no, realistically, actually, if you're going to make Becky a heel, have her do something truly dastardly in that whole context to be so that when she is backing up that ramp, if she does have that belt, I'd save that for another date, but even if you do it that way, have it so that she's booed out of the goddamn building for being despicable. You didn't do nothing. You didn't do it. You gave it was just a weak. If you're gonna do a heel turn, do a heel turn. Don't do it like that. Anyway, I was kind of excited, not super stoked on the match, but I was kind of excited for Damien Priest to get his due. Kind of nice to see them actually not fuck him up completely. Yep. Now on Raw, he challenged Bobby Lashley for no goddamn reason, and now he's buddies with Drew McIntyre, and that's, I guess, the direction we're going. But fine. But still, Damien Priest, all right, cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What was that weird segment? Who did he talk? Mario Lopez showed up for some reason.
Yeah, he was
backstage.
there.
What the fuck was that? And then he's like, I'm a huge fan of wrestling. You can tell by my WWF shirt of the Heart Foundation. I was like, Heart Foundation. I was like, you can say WWF? Shut the fuck up, Mario Lopez.
Mario Lopez, get out of here.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, I didn't really understand any of that either. And then I guess we got we had that Charlotte thing. Charlotte won. That was a thing that happened because we needed that again. And we got Charlotte and Alexa Bliss.
That really helped me win, though.
Yeah, it did. That was one of the key ones. But yeah, I guess Charlotte and Alexa Bliss is going to be happening down the road now.
Yeah, we saw that on Raw, and I could give two shits, and Lily is still around, and who cares?
The last thing that really matters, I guess, about SummerSlam is the return of one Brock Lesnar. I think looking cooler than he's ever looked before. He's got that beard. He's got that hair.
He's got the ponytail, and the fact that he's smiling and kind of talking shit, as opposed to just straight faced mean mugging. He was mugging, but he was then cutting a smile, shit, hey, what's up, motherfucker? What's up, motherfucker? I
think we're about to see probably the best Brock that we've ever seen, or the most likable Brock. We're getting into Brock being in face territory right now.
I think so too.
Which is bizarre to even say. There's a lot of reports that after he, F5'd Cena at SummerSlam, he was slapping hands on the way up the ramp, high-fiving fans and stuff. When have you ever seen
never
Lesnar do that? Never, ever.
And he didn't even and I like that he didn't, because save that for another day, because him showing up was impactful enough, but he didn't fucking look at Heyman.
No, it's coming though, and it's coming.
But it was all fucking. But I think that was a good way to play that. That was actually good. But I think, I did like it. I like the smile, the talking shit, and like you could tell like the way that Roman played it was like, oh shit, like it did give you that story, the beginning of that chapter, like, oh shit.
It didn't come close to a CM Punk return. But it was about as close as WWE could have gotten with what they had to any sort of impactful, newsworthy return that they could pull off. And honestly, it made me far more excited about Lesnar than I have been in goddamn years. And now
100%.
And now I'm kind of like, you know what? I do want him to beat Roman, weirdly. And maybe he should be the guy. And you know what they're going to do? They're actually going to do the right thing, and Roman will beat Brock, because you're still trying to build the biggest heel in the company, and that is the right move to do. But now you have me interested. You actually, WWE, good job. You actually have me interested in a feud for once.
Yep. Don't fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up.
And that's what I was going to ask you, and you just answered it. But how do you see this playing out? Because he is like the only legitimate threat.
He's the last one left.
And we do have talk of Roman and The Rock at WrestleMania, so you can't have Lesnar take it off him before that.
No, I don't think you can do that. I think you definitely have to.
But Lesnar could lose it as a face, and you could still have the fans behind him.
Yep. And now there's a different Lesnar, and it can also be revolved around a Heyman situation, which of course leads Roman to win.
Which is and then eventually, maybe after the Rock thing happens, right? Then eventually Brock gets Heyman back on his side, and that's what he needed. It's like the Scarlet and fucking
right. It could be that, or you could even have, if you want to go this way, you could even have maybe Brock help The Rock win to eventually have a Brock match.
A Brock match?
That ends up with Brock with the title again, but now we've got somehow we end up getting face Brock versus face Rock. And that is money. So don't tell me
that is.
I'm just saying it could happen.
You could have Rock win it at the Mania and have Brock win it the next night.
Yeah, but he could also be the Hollywood asshole, right? That's just stepped in. There's a thing with The Rock that he can't always be just like this big face, even though he is.
He could say, you took out Cena, he's in Hollywood, but I'm the guy you're not going to send back to Hollywood without the belt.
Exactly, and that demands a cheer.
That kind of heelish, and he'll back it up with the words and then the work in the ring. That's the thing.
Yeah, there's a lot to go there, and honestly, after this, when Reigns drops it, dude will be well deserved of a little bit of a break, and then Reigns will come back and he'll be just fine to go do it.
And they'll turn him face, and which is what they've always wanted, is a face Reigns going over.
Exactly. So it's there. It's probably happening, but I'm the best thing that they did all weekend, really, well, in WWE, not NXT, was the whole Brock Lesnar return. Let's talk just briefly about NXT, because I know we don't have that much time, and it does warrant probably a little more time than we're going to give it. But the two biggest things we'll start with the three. We'll start with Cameron Grimes' LA Knight, and so nice to finally see that come to fruition.
Yep. Grimes deserved it.
Did deserve it. Not their best match. I thought they've had a better match than this one, but it was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. But I agree. They've had better matches.
Match of the night for you.
NXT UK.
It had to be, right?
Dude, that match was fucking awesome. That match had me on the edge of my seat.
I've only seen it once, and I have to see it again because
I've only seen it once too, but it was fucking awesome. Both of them put on such a good show. The storytelling, the false finishes, it was, there were so many times
so hard hitting, like, oh, you could feel it through the TV. And
I mean, did you see like his neck and chest?
God.
Like, dude,
and even his back, because he started going after his
Yeah.
Dragonoff's back at the end of it. Like, that's just, it was fantastic. And kudos to Dragonff. Like, that's like, they just built, if he wasn't already, they've got a new star on their hands. And I like this, the whole, like, he's the czar. Like, I think that's really cool too. So I guess it just begs the question of what they do with, you know, Walter moving forward. Does he remain in NXT UK? Does he come and become a regular member of the NXT, you know, the regular roster? I suggest that he kind of has to, because I think they fold NXT UK as
and especially if they're talking
brand.
about wanting to be an NXT to be a breeding ground with more changing the style and like more bigger guys and, you know, that sort of thing. He fits that build.
Walter does fit that build. And, you know, we obviously talked a little bit about the Adam Cole situation, so we won't spend too long on it. But good for Cool Kyle to take it. It was the right decision in the end of this feud. It had to happen. We all knew it was going to happen. I have not finished, you know, the entirety of that match, but I did watch the pretty brief match between, of course, then Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross.
Which is the one that I didn't watch out of all the wrestling this weekend.
I'm sure you know the result, obviously. So that's not a big deal. But the match itself was pretty underwhelming. Like it's Joe's slower, you know, and you know, definitely he still has the psychology, he's still very good, but I don't think he can do what he used to be able to do.
And he's been injured so many times, so I bet there's a little bit of that in the back too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I'm also not a huge Kross fan, so it didn't really like appeal to me in that regard. I do feel bad with Kross as to what we've seen, obviously, with his debut, or not debut, but re-debut, I guess, on Raw with this new mask and everything they're doing with him. That might be better saved for in more depth for when we see more of it. But it was terrible. We all know that. But yeah, like, it was cool to see Samoa Joe back on top of NXT. If they're going in a new direction, he's the right guy to be in the helm of that direction. And the question is, at that point, what do we do with Joe? There's been rumor, I guess, of an open challenge. We're recording this shortly after NXT has gone off air on a Tuesday, so I'm sure maybe we, you know, are missing some of that information. But I've heard rumor of possibly, you know, Pete Dunne being back in that fold, and but then again, could you just do it and bite the bullet on Joe and Walter, man? Because fucking,
and do you
got to do it eventually. You got to do it eventually.
You do have to do it eventually, but do you have Joe drop it that quickly?
Probably not the best idea to do it right away, right? Like, you probably want a guy or two in between him and Walter.
But then do it. He doesn't need to hold it for a super long time.
Walter should be the guy that eventually takes it from Joe, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I agree with that. And Joe doesn't, like I just said, he doesn't need to hold it for a substantial amount of time.
No. It was a good move, you know. In the meantime, I think it's going to get some eyes back on NXT, especially in this very strange period where they're clearly restructuring, I suppose would be the best way to put it. You know, we don't know how that's all going to unfold. Now they're definitely doing stuff like live to tape, and then, you know, recording it after the fact, or airing it after the fact. So that's going to be weird. We're going to have apparently new lighting. We're going to apparently have a focus more on bigger guys and more of the old school wrestling mentality rather than these indie darlings, which of course made NXT, you dipshits.
Yeah, which means Vince is having more of an eye on it and control, which is, because you literally had a like minor league that was feeding it, and you realized that you were botching all of the fucking stars that you brought up. So instead of fixing what you were doing on the main roster, you're going to ruin the minor league that was bringing all of these people into it.
And even when you had a guy that was literally tailor-made to what you like, Vince, in the name of Karrion Kross, you brought him up to the main roster and immediately ruined him. Immediately. And this goes before you put a stupid mask and little straps on him.
Yeah,
this goes back to the Jeff Hardy thing.
Beginning.
And then, like throughout that, even some of the stuff with Keith Lee. And now we've got the masked Karrion Kross.
What do you think that conversation was like? They're like, here's your new outfit. He's like, oh, fuck.
He's probably like a lot of people. He's like, I want a job, and I guess I'll try and make this work. It's the dewdrop syndrome.
Yeah.
I'll try and make it work. I'll try and own it. I'll try and do everything I can. I guess I'm a stupid gladiator man now. Whatever.
Yeah.
Let's go with it. Sometimes they don't really have much of a choice, and this seems like one of those occasions. Speaking of that, real quick, we're right up on time, but I did want to mention two very, very quick things. So Paul Wight, I almost did the Walter thing. I did Paul Wight.
Yeah, Paul Wight.
So no, Paul Wight was on a podcast recently. Shout out to Chris Van Vliet. He's actually pretty good at his job. And one of the little things that was like a little tidbit towards the end that I caught today was, and it just kind of goes to show you, this would have been very early on in his career with signing with WWE, as shortly after him coming over from WCW, being the Giant into the Big Show, and so it was widely reported in the news, and the actor Nick Cage was a huge fan of the Big Show, or at the time the Giant, and it's because of his because of his son. And so Nick Cage just realized that Paul Wight says this. This is the quote. When I first signed with WWE, Nick Cage reached out to me because his son was a big fan of me. Nick Cage was trying to hook me up with this Russell Crowe movie. I go ask Vince, and he says, I'm paying you to be a wrestler, not an actor. It would have apparently required him being in Spain for 6 weeks. That movie was The Gladiator. Can you imagine? The amount of money he lost. That's a huge movie. That is a huge movie. And you can honestly see him being cast as one of the not extras, but like those specialty
one of
fights.
The gladiators that he went up against, Russell Crowe went up against.
Exactly. Would have been perfect for it, right? So just that goes to show you that he probably turned down, I would say that's a good couple mil, like easy, by not being able to take that role. The last thing I want to throw out there is that it was announced today that for the first time ever, AEW is coming to Orlando, baby. Which I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. It's the first time they're stepping on the I would suggest there's two homes of WWE, one of them being in Stamford, Connecticut, and one of them being here in Orlando.
Yeah.
It's up for debate which one is the true home of WWE, but at this point, it's probably down here. So the fact that the AEW is having the balls to do their first show in Orlando is pretty huge. It's going to be at the formerly known as the UCF Arena, University of Central Florida Arena. Now it's some I don't know, they all give them dumb names. But it's October 23rd, and I believe because of the amount of support and people that want to get it going in our Facebook group, we're probably going to be doing a meetup. So our first Ohno wrestling meetup, there'll be a lot of details to come. We'll figure out a good place to do it. There's plenty of pubs, and you know that my area around me, Matthew, there's plenty of good spots for us to, to try and have a meetup on our way to the event. So we will absolutely do that. We'll get together a couple hours before the event. We'll have some beers, and then we'll all go check out a Saturday night Dynamite, which would be easier for everybody to get to simply because it's on the weekend. Seems like there's an NHL hockey game on Wednesday. It's one of those that they're having to move to a Saturday. Therefore, we're having it in Orlando. And again, October 23rd. A lot of time for us to plan. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. But I'm really excited about that because that'll be a cool opportunity for us as the podcast and friends of the podcast all kind of meet up and go to a show together. And again, the first the first AEW show if you're coming to my town with ONW, we got to do something special especially for the first show. So expect to see me there. Expect to see more information on a meetup. And yeah, pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. So I know you can't probably obviously make it being all the way out there.
It'll probably be a fucking bunk-ass Dynamite if I show up.
That's true. That is true. You tend to ruin all of the Dynamites that you go to.
Or they tend to book around me.
Yeah.
I mean, Tony knows my whereabouts. So
that's it.
Just like, he's like, he's coming. Don't give it to him.
That's why we're not going back to Denver anytime soon.
Yeah, right. So I did want to say, I didn't go to WWE on Sunday night here, the night after SummerSlam. They were at Ball Arena.
I forgot that was happening.
Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, did not go to that house show. But also, I did want to say two other things really quickly.
Please.
At the end here. One,
hit it.
I enjoyed Jericho not being on commentary.
Oh my God! Thank God!
It was
especially
fucking very nice
for that show. Can you imagine how much he would have ruined that?
Oh my God, it's CM Punk!
Because that was one of the nice things they did. They let it breathe, man. They shut the fuck up.
Yeah. So that, and now he is scheduled for this Wednesday's Dynamite to do a promo to announce what he's been reflecting on following the 5 Lavers and the MJF. And I just hope that he goes away.
Yeah,
for a little bit. Do your Fozzy thing. Take a break.
Give us 4 to 6 months. Give us 4 to 6 months.
Don't get on commentary. And then when you eventually do the CM Punk Jericho that we talked about, have him come back and say, well, yeah, you're the best in the world. Well, I'm the greatest of all time.
That's the match. That's the headline for a pay-per-view, man. That's Revolution.
You gotta have him go away.
Yeah, no,
you're and get hit, and maybe that's his one last pop and ride.
He's
like 52 or something.
No, you're absolutely right. That's definitely the way they should do it. And again, it doesn't need to be a full year of Jericho being gone, but give us 4 to 6 months. Give us some time. Give us some breathing room. Because you know what? Give us enough time to where when you do come back and we hear Judas again, we're in love with you again.
Exactly.
That's all we ask.
It's all we ask.
We want to love you.
Exactly. We just don't force it down our throats.
Don't
all the
Roman
time.
us.
Don't be fucking everywhere. Don't be on commentary, in the ring, in promos, running a faction.
Yes.
You can't do it all.
And that's, you know what, Jericho? That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
You're allowed to not have to do it all at all goddamn times.
Yep.
Was there anything else, or was that the last one?
No, that was it.
Cool. Well, it's been a fun ass show, even though it was just the two of us. I'll say this, guys. You heard us talking about the Facebook group earlier, where I was mentioning that we'll probably be organizing the Ohno wrestling meetup prior to our October 23rd Orlando event here. Just check that out, because facebook.com/group/Ohno wrestling. If you're not familiar with Facebook, you can just literally go on there. If you're signed in, you type in Ohno wrestling, you'll find us. join the group. It's a great way to interact with like-minded people and quite a few dumbass smarks too. But that's what we do over there. Guys, otherwise, you can help us out on Patreon if you want to donate a couple bucks. That's patreon.com/ONRS. That ONRS, by the way, stands for Ohno Radio Show, which is live on Thursday nights over at the same Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ONRS Live. Be sure to find Ohno Wrestling and Ohno Radio Show wherever you find podcasts. And Matthew, what do we say when we get out of here for the evening? Woo! Days to the beat now.